For Louisiana versus all y'all and Go Preps, Jerit Roser here today with Newman football coach Nelson Stewart. And Coach, we were just talking about it's been an off season unlike any other that anyone has experienced. It's good to see you. How have y'all been doing?
It's great to see you, man. We're hanging in there. I think, like you said, it's everything is a new normal. I think for us, every day brings a different obstacle. I think in this, it's a kind of a never-ending rabbit hole, but we're trying to navigate through it. Newman's a great institution. We're really working hard to make sure we socially distance, we sanitize. We really do things the right way. I think that this one's definitely my old 18. Our quarterback used to say it's always a marathon, not a sprint. This is a marathon. So, we're when you're getting in there, you're dealing with kids masking up inside and dealing with hydration. And it's a whole new world. But, we've got a great support staff at Newman. Our headmasters really put a lot of faith in us. And we've had a lot of success. We had our first 2 weeks of going all the way through, getting all our athletes throughout the day. And there are definitely challenges, but I think you just have to take it slow. I've used a network of coaches throughout the state to try and, figure out what is the new normal in strength and conditioning. And, it's been good. I think definitely not typically where we are heading into that July 4th week, but it's a start. And, this season, I think you just take each day for each day. So that's kind of been our motto as we work in it.
With some of the distance up to the point where we could finally start getting some groups back together, a lot of guys found ways to get some work in and stay active. A lot of guys didn't necessarily keep up as well with it. Some guys kind of managed it well mentally. Some guys probably got a little stir crazy. How did you feel about just seeing your group start to get back together and get into some more normalcy and kind of where they were coming out of hopefully what has been the brunt of the abnormalities?
Yeah. Well, I think it's been great. I think, just as you alluded to, our student athletes were all over the map. We had some that were more quarantined than others. We had some, I think, that were in situations where they could get out more, move around more. We were able to put out high performance workouts that they could get on every day and do on their own. We had to relook at that body weight stuff, core stuff. Not everyone has weight. So, we did Zoom. I got to learn a lot about that. I think that I Zoomed Arch Manning more, and I felt like I talked to him more than my wife sometimes in the pandemic to keep up. But we did use it as a lot of team building. We worked on that. But there's nothing else like getting the kids in there. And even with masks and running through, those 10 groups a day, just seeing their faces, seeing them on campus, it's been wonderful. And it makes you appreciate the little things, your little dynamic warm-ups and your form running, and just seeing how families are doing and siblings are doing. So it's been amazing. And like I said, I would stay there till midnight if I could do it every day. So it's been great. Our participation's been great. We have most of our kids back. And just for our school and our coaches, giving those kids some sense of normalcy. That's really why we're in it, what it's all about. So they did look good overall. I will say I felt like our kids came back in better shape, stronger than we thought. We actually were able to kind of push them a little further, especially from a conditioning front, than we thought we would. So it's been a nice surprise so far.
You mentioned Arch, and I definitely want to get to asking you about him and some of the other specific playmakers. But as far as just coming off of last year where you guys have another really successful year overall, have a couple heartbreakers that don't go your way, and that's kind of how the season ended too, and just dropping a really close one there in the playoffs. What have been some of the early conversations about just overall mindset and goals and what to take from maybe that experience for some of those guys, but what to kind of put behind them and start building toward this 2020 year?
Well, I think, as you alluded to, being here as long as I have, when you get close, I think that you could feel like we're getting closer. I think that's our big thing. The quarterfinals and semifinals, there's kind of a sense of normalcy for that. For us, that's a environment we've grown accustomed to. I think, the start off last season, I think we lost to a great football team. Neil Weiner's a good friend of mine, a great football coach. I came down to the end. I didn't think we played our best, but I think they played theirs. And I think you have to give credit to they played great team defense. They ran the football well. They took shots when they needed to. And, we had a play where we could have won in the end on a strip, but it didn't go our way. But in those games like that, it comes down to inches. So I think for us, it's been what will you do for those 3 points? What can you do? It's attention to detail in the little things. And It was hard end. It was a really hard end. We have so many players coming back. I think that when you look at it, it's very different where there was a lot of excitement. The kids were ready to get right back in the weight room right away. While we were obviously sad for our seniors, it's probably the most we've had coming back on both sides in all aspects, especially the skill position. So I think very motivated. I think we've grown a lot physically. Definitely not a lot of, doom and gloom. I think for us, the ultimate goal, as it is for every program, is a state championship. I think we've been in the state semifinals or quarterfinals each of the past 6 years off the top of my head. And I think we're getting close and getting stronger, better up front. Not just in the weight room, but from a conditioning standpoint, from an agility standpoint, our attention to detail. And, I think we're excited. I'd like to think, one of the better teams, I hope, in Division III. Obviously, there are some phenomenal teams out there, but we're just trying to get back on the football field. And I assure you, this is certainly as motivated I've seen a group of kids since I've been at Newman.
Yeah, you guys did have some really talented seniors that were great players for y'all that graduate, but you mentioned there's a lot of really good players back, and Arch is probably coming off being as high profile of a freshman football player as you can be, and he's got some guys to throw it around to, who are, I guess, kind of getting into some of those weapons that he has, and who some of the players, both standouts that we saw that are going to be there and be able to be relied upon, as well as maybe some names that you think have an opportunity to catch more attention than they had to this point, that have kind of been there, but this is going to be their opportunity to really take a step forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think first, yesterday we did lose our career-leading receiver in Jamon Sutherland. He left us, with every record in every category. He's going to play for my old head coach, Buddy Stevens at Dartmouth. And as I told him, this is the biggest payback I can give. I think that highly of him. He's phenomenal, and I can't overstate how much of a loss he was. He was our leader. He was our everything. And I think he had everything to do with all the success that you saw with Arch. I think he was a huge reason for that. In terms of what we have a fair amount that we're excited about. Both of our slots are back, and both seniors, John Charbonnet, our second leading receiver, Pike Philibert, who also played at the slot. Really dual returners. Both get grass well. Both are able to sit down, kind of catch everything. We're able to throw at them. They run a lot of crosses and sits. They run the seams well. Super smart. Our wide receiver coach, Will Walters, really coached those guys up where they just have so much experience. And, we're able to really get creative in terms of how we spread the field with both of those guys. While we lost both of our outside players, we are excited about what we have there. I think, starting off, a name a lot of people may know so far, A.J. Johnson, who's come in. He was ineligible last year, came to us, his freshman year, after his freshman year, sat out last year. When he got to us, I think he was about 6'1", 6'2", 160 pounds. He's 6'3" now. He's 195 pounds. It's the first time I've ever had a kid that's never taken a snap, and he already has a few Power 5 offers, University of Georgia, Alabama, whatnot. What he does well is he can knock the top off coverage. He's an excellent leaper. He has great body control, uses his hands well. He's a violent blocker. He's a really good route runner. He's not raw. I think that how he comes out of his breaks, sometimes it wasn't fair on scout team, and you have a kid like that. So he really showed us, I think, a lot about that, that explosiveness, that leaping ability, just kind of can do everything, move him around. And boy, he's gotten a lot of chemistry going with Arch in the offseason. We're obviously very excited to have him, but you can't do it with one side. We have Makai Donaldson coming in on the outside. Kai was he was ineligible last year as a freshman, be a sophomore. Really tall, big target. Makai's about 6'4", 6'4.5", 185, 190 pounds. Really goes up and gets it, plays physical. That's what we want to see with our wide receivers. They can really set the edge. So hopefully we're in a situation where we have two players that can really balance the field. That's important. And another guy that kind of comes in, Chris Hunter, who's going to be a junior. He's actually the backup quarterback, very athletic, super twitchy. He's grown a lot. He's like 6 foot. I think for us, we can use him kind of all over the place. And we have a second-team All-State tight end that was only a freshman last year, Will Randall. Will was 6'3". He is 6'3", 220, 225 pounds, moves really well, a violent blocker. He's able to work the middle of the field. And then obviously our running back, Joseph Pleasant, returning. He comes back as well, almost 1,000 yards last year. Great between the tackles, really good inside zone power runner, balances things well. he comes back's a senior. And, those are just some of them. There are more that's off
Yeah.
the top of my head. So, we're excited. And I think why you hear so much about Arch for good reason. He's got great chemistry with his wide receivers. And, he's been able to work with them, this offseason, develop that. And, we're excited to get going.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of reasons to be excited when
Yeah, we're trying.
we had a chance to see AJ kind of early on and see him probably when he was a little bit more raw, and so to hear him continue to grow into himself, that's exciting. And then our guy Sam Spiegelman was telling me a week ago, watch out for Mekhi too, as much as we kind of been talking about AJ, that there were going to be a lot of weapons there for Arch. And for Arch to come from his freshman year now going into sophomore year, what you mentioned, having had a chance to talk with him a ton on Zoom, what's kind of your takeaway on how his virtual off season has been going so far in some of those communications, and just kind of the things that y'all are focused on in terms of him continuing to build on that start?
Well, I think that, I guess to start with it, he's done a lot on his own. I think Arch has really worked hard on his own film study. He's obviously got a great network in his family. He's used those resources to really better himself. Without even getting into before we get to the Zoom aspect, he's grown a lot physically. I feel like he's been on a 2-year growth spurt. It's crazy right now, but last year he's about that 6'6'1" mark, 165 pounds. And then again, right after the pandemic walking in, I just Zoomed him, and he really is 6'3.5", 195 pounds. He's almost unrecognizable. I think it has everything to do with his work in the weight room and how much he's worked on his own. So that's where we start physically. But I also think that, what we worked on when we started, I had to learn about Zoom. I think the number one thing for me was I was going to, learn how to, get in, work with our quarterback. So what did we do? We literally went through the entire playbook, went through a lot of drill tapes that, I've had archived, not just of him, but of, obviously, some NFL players and guys that have been great resources for us in terms of just looking at mechanics and drops and kind of just some reminders going through things. Went through the playbook again, each and every install, basically doing a virtual install of what spring would have been. That's where we started. Asked questions, worked there. Then we went through every snap of every single game, going back to the scrimmage, and was able to share my screen, talk to him about things we saw, and I think we both enjoyed it because it was amazing watching, really our first time together, and then all of a sudden the end. And it was funny. I talked to them, when we wrapped up our umpteenth Zoom watching the Dunham game. He actually played really well, and they put, he was able to identify coverages, know where the pressure was coming. He was forced to run the ball, and it was one of those situations where we got beat up front. We couldn't run, but I think, his ability to take what was there, not turn the ball over, and actually run it in to, put us in position, that kept us in the game. So he's matured so much mentally. And, I think on those Zooms, it's not just about watching yourself. It's like, okay, what's this front looks like? Who's the mic? Who's the mic? How's the middle of the field? Is it open? Is it closed? How's the corner? And so it's just a constant refresher, doing that. And, I'd like to think we have a good, rapport together, good chemistry. I love coaching him. He just loves football. That's what he wants to do. Sometimes you're on a Zoom and all of a sudden his mom would come in the picture and it's dinner, and we gotta, I had to kind of time it out and be smart with it. But, he's a blessing to coach. I think he has great parents that have let him become that. That's who he is. And, just trying to keep getting better. I think that's his thing. When he works, wherever he goes, it's all about pushing himself, getting better. When you have a freshman season like that with all the individual accolades and, however many they were, I think what's most important is his development. Even when I joked when I gave him a trophy for LFCA All-State. I went in and right as the pandemic, it was still in his locker, not because he didn't care about it, but because it's just he's so focused on getting better in all aspects of what he does. So I certainly think the best is yet to come. And I think that's a credit to his mindset and his goals and our team's goals.
Folks obviously know the family connections with uncles Peyton and Eli, and you mentioned kind of looking at some professional quarterbacks and little things you can kind of show him. Is much of that those guys, or who are some other quarterbacks that y'all kind of rely on when you look at some of those things that he can kind of pick up little bits of?
Well, I think there's he obviously we have a nice network. I think that, everything from now with the internet, there's so many archive footage of you can go on and get clips of Tom Brady and Drew Brees and whatnot. And quite honestly, yeah, I think that we are able to access some footage from Indianapolis and Denver and cut ups and drills. And, to me, it's not just about running the actual play that they're running, but I think it's more about the drills and, the little things, where your eyes are, where the release is, how your play action looks. And that's really some of the things that we do. And thankfully, we've been able to incorporate a lot of those drills into obviously our individual time. So, yeah, he's had some good uncles that we've looked at. But I will say that's something that it's more about his development. I think that with him, he's arch. And I think that's really important for me, where a lot of people, I've said it so many times, they focus on Manning. I focus on arch. And I think that that's allowed for his development. He is who he is. He's been able to work with I think, a really good quarterback coach who I've known for years, and David Morris. He goes to quarterback country. And it's funny, you hear so many times where I think coaches may worry about outside instructors, whatnot. I'm fortunate. I've been aligned with David. He's worked with him since he's little. He worked with Martin Butcher. So there's really been a nice network of guys that have helped him. And I look at it like a golf, like a Cooper will say, a golf swing, a swing coach. And that's really helped him out. I think was his development. And obviously, I think his grandfather and everyone, I think everyone's been a resource, but nobody's pushed anything. And, he's his own entity. I think he's a great athlete. He runs well. He sees the field well. So, just kind of a little of everything. And I just try and give him as much as he can process, and our offense will grow as he grows. So a little everything, but yeah, obviously I've been blessed to get a lot of assists along the way from some good old teammates, no doubt.
We we still are so uncertain in so many ways of exactly what the fall is going to look like, but for you guys, as you look at theoretically what the schedule could look like, and certainly the district with St. Charles, and what's kind of the outlook there on just what's awaiting you if we can get to that point smoothly?
Yeah, I think that it is exactly that. What is awaiting us? I think the first thing to go back, you have to be ready for anything. It's one of those things. I went through Katrina where it's almost like, hey, you have to be ready to start at any time, end at any time, start back. So that's where that attention to detail really comes in, just maximizing each day, and that really is a mindset for us. So anything that as we go to, it's looking in the future, but we have a lot of hopes. I think for us, just looking at the schedule. We've had the same group really start up past few years, starting with Lusher. JJ's done a great job of really, getting some excitement around there. They're redoing their facility. They're really excited. That's a great uptown opening for us. Then you have Bonneville and East Jefferson, two 5-day schools from a district in Jefferson Parish that really are good physically up front. They're athletic. For us, from a PowerPoint perspective, they work. And obviously, Brett Bonifons and Frank Aiello, two of my closest friends. And I think that really helps us as we prepare and get going almost toward district. We've got Country Day. That's really become a fun, little rivalry feel, but rivalry in that, parents know each other, community knows each other. I thought Yeoman, that was really a highlight for our kids. We got a big win there against that outstanding team with Justin Ibieta. They were a state semifinalist. So I'm sure that'll be something looking at Yeoman that people will be excited about for good reason. They have a Guy Lecomte's a phenomenal coach coming from Holy Cross. So I think they'll be, just as good as they've been, if not better, in terms of keeping that thing rolling, just as we've seen. And then a great Division III team as we get into St. Thomas Aquinas. We've got Riverside Academy, long time. Really, I played them every year, or I think since I've been an assistant. Coach Dizer wants to keep that going. They really got it rolling late. I thought big win against Country Day. That was a good game. And a game that for us, probably our closest one last year, the Booker T. Washington Lions under Wayne Reese Jr. They are really, really something. They've got the majority of their players coming back. We won a tight one last year that we really had to gut out. They had a huge win against, Lutcher in the playoffs. So that's really, and that's right at that week 5 point. That's a measuring stick for us. I can't tell you how highly I think of him and that program. So we'll be looking forward to that. And then you get in district and kind of, working our way through. I think it starts obviously St. Charles Catholic. Coach Monica, year in, year out, they're in the state finals for a reason. They're great up front. I thought last year we got as close as we've been. We're able to get down, but two big plays I think hurt us. A kick there, a kick here and there. We were still able to pull ahead with Arch with a great run. They milked the clock, working all the way down length of the field. But I think that for us was an indicator. So, they're going to come to us. I think that'll be a real showcase game. One that'll be great, I think, for both programs to kind of see where we're at the end of the season. And then, the storied South Plaquemine program under Coach Lyle Feet, they do an outstanding job in terms of, that's as hard a group of kids I've seen play. It's 18 players, and they just worked tirelessly. So, really good schedule. Don't know much about Cohen there. Coach Ben Powell's moved on now, obviously to Haynes Academy. So don't know as much about what they have come back or whatnot, but a good schedule. And we can only prepare for what's in front of us. And, we certainly respect all our opponents. We have high hopes for ourselves. And, hey, it could look like anything. It could go 10-7-5 or some people say spring. I don't know, but we're just gonna work our tails off and see what happens.
Yes, sir. Well, good luck, man, and everybody keep staying healthy and on top of everything. And hopefully we'll be seeing each other on a Friday night here before too long.
Yeah, man. I look forward to it. Hopefully those stands will fill up and we can get some normalcy going sometime soon. But I really appreciate you having me, and just fun talking football.
Absolutely. Thanks, Coach.
All right,
Again,
buddy. My pleasure.
Coach Nelson Stewart from Newman getting ready for the Greenies 2020 season for Louisiana versus Yall, and go Preps, Jerit Roser.